Knock, knock, real estate pros. You could save up to 30% when you file your taxes with Block Advisors instead of a typical accountant. Block Advisors by H&R Block provides affordable tax expertise that finds every credit and deduction you deserve. 100% accuracy guaranteed. Visit blockadvisors.com/real estate today to get started. Average savings based on national average fees for Federal Form 1040, plus Schedule C and one state filing in the latest available 2020 survey conducted by the National Society of Accountants. Pricing may vary. See blockadvisors.com/guarantees for full details.
The friendship is sharing deal.
Because I want one of your McNuggets.
And I need some of your Quarter Pounder.
There's a deal for everyone at McDonald's. Get one favorite like 10-piece chicken McNuggets, a Quarter Pounder, or a Big Mac and get another for just $1. Price and participation may vary. Valid for item of equal or lesser value.
This episode is brought to you by AutoTrader. Credit scores, down payments, interest rates. Car buying can be a numbers game, but you don't have to be a math expert to get the keys to your dream car. Just use Kelley Blue Book My Wallet on AutoTrader. You can crunch the numbers so you know exactly how much you'll pay each month for your car. So leave the calculator at home. Visit autotrader.com to learn more.
Serie A Chronicles is a Media Chronicles production.
Now, before we start our chat, we want you to head over to serieachronicles.com/Patreon now and subscribe to the Chronicles Tifosi membership with a free 7-day trial. Get priority access to every episode and voice note before the rest of the world. Plus, no ads and bonus Patreon-only exclusive episodes and video episodes. Also, be sure to join the new chat community in the Patreon app and chat with fellow subscribers.
Hello, Serie A Chronicles listeners. It is Tuesday, the 9th of January. It is 2 minutes to 2 o'clock. I'm breaking the first rule of podcasting by telling you exactly when we're recording. But today we're going to try something a little bit different. But first and foremost, before I bring in my illustrious co-hosts, Mina Rizuki and Nikki Bandini, I'd like to start by saying please give us a 5-star rating and a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you're listening. It really does help us to be found. For our Chronicles Tifosi patrons, please make sure you join in the Patreon app, especially as we have had some fairly vocal patrons recently, and that led us to doing a special extra bumper episode whereby we spoke all about 2023, 2024, best and worst moments, and so on and so forth. We are here. We have reached the midway point of the season, the Giro di Boa, when all of the Serie A teams get halfway out to sea and then go round the buoy and head back to shore. And so it's time to take stock, Mina Rizuki. 19 matches played, Inter atop. Did you expect that?
Okay, can I just say, if there was ever a meme on that, tell me you're on a podcast with a commentator without telling me you're on a podcast with a commentator. It was you starting that off, and I had to take my headphones off. I nearly went deaf.
I was booming there. So
was
sound down. I think we should put a little sound down warning on that. But
I also want to know, Mina, how often in your life you've been described as illustrious. I think I quite like it.
Oh, Nikki.
With the illustrious colleagues.
You're just as illustrious with your illustrious colleagues.
Flattery will get me everywhere, I'm told.
Nikki, I don't know about you, but for me it's quite often, okay?
Just everyone. Family dinner.
Yes, that's it. That's regularly how my parents describe me. Their illustrious daughter.
Imagine that. That would be great. I mean, there's proud parents and there's taking it a bit too far, isn't there? But there we go. My daughter, Mina Rizuki of the BBC. Anyway.
I wish. More often than not, it's the one who disappointed me.
We'll save that for a bonus pod, sure. Yeah.
It's a joke, guys. Anyway, but what were we talking about? Oh, yeah, Juventus, Inter. Ooh, Inter. You know what I think is very interesting about this is that people often want the limelight, but you don't understand what happens when you are always a winner, and that you attract so much more criticism than you believe you deserve. And that's what happens when you win often. It's a little bit like the Real Madrid story, right? Everyone hates Real Madrid. They have that greedy owner, Florentino Perez, who just wants money. You know, they're just a team that play terrible football, but sometimes always win. And everyone loves to hate them because they're winners. Everyone loves to hate Manchester City. And what Inter don't understand is that when you are in the limelight, you're going to get the same treatment as what Juve would get, which is, oh, is this a fake league? Are you cheating? What's going on? And I know they're really angry about it, but this is what happens when you win, and you should love it. You should, welcome it. And
why is this going towards Juve? This isn't about Juve. This is about Pazza Inter through and through.
Here.
I've never seen a more Pazza Inter enter a game than that enter the game. I mean, first of all, the sort of
I guess it was the fans' reaction. I think that was sorry. That's what I meant.
Sure. I suppose I should sort of let's do a very speedy recap for people who didn't see it, because Inter beat Verona 2-1 to stay top of the table. But my goodness, was it dramatic. 1-0 up in the first half, wasn't it, when Lautaro scored. Lautaro comes back, he scores, it all looks like it's Inter back to doing business. Then second half, on comes Arnautovic for Inter at the same time as Henry comes on for Verona. Arnautovic proceeds to have one of the most spectacularly awful cameos you can imagine, while Henry immediately scores.
Don't worry, we'll get to Pasquale Mazzocchi as the pod goes on.
Yes.
That was a pretty good battle between the two.
That's true. That is true. But yes, Arnautovic, who not only sort of fluffs his chance to score in injury time, but also blocks a shot on the goal line for Inter.
Well, he was brought in to replace Lukaku, wasn't he?
That's true.
Oh, Patrick!
Patrick, that's savage.
Oh, savage! And everyone says I'm savage. Oh, Patrick,
that was mean.
I've got to get the claws out as well sometimes.
Just
but quite warranted.
For people who didn't see it, because Inter then won the game in injury time. Davide Fratesi scores after this sort of chaotic attack, and in the middle of it all, it looks very much like Bastoni sticks his elbow into a defender and doesn't get picked up on it. After which, Verona also win a penalty, which doesn't initially get awarded. Ball goes down the other end of the pitch. Inter failed to score an open goal. Then VAR calls it back. Then Henry hits the post. It was one of the maddest ends to a football game that I can remember.
Pazza Inter.
Yeah.
They are crazy. And it brings a new meaning to the word for Inter and Juventus jostling for position, I think, with Bastoni sort of nudging his way into Andre Duda. But I want to imagine a parallel universe, because I've got a feeling that if Inter actually score with that breakaway, so Monty Poe has come up for the last kick of the game, it's the 98th minute, whatever it is, Verona toss it into the box, their goalkeeper is out way down in the Inter box, Inter win the ball back, Barella's running clear, rather than just rolling it into an empty net, he decides to try and square it for Alexis Sanchez, but he has to wait for Alexis to get back on side before he can do so. Then Yaya Calon charges back and wins a slide tackle. It goes out for a corner. Only then, with the ball going out of play, does VAR intervene. But I've got a feeling in a parallel universe that if Inter score that goal, if either Barella rolls it in or he plays it properly to Alexis and he scores, Inter go 3-1 up. Such is the injustice, because then the VAR would have intervened anyway and awarded the penalty. I've got a feeling Verona score that penalty. I know it's a really odd, counterintuitive sort of idea. But I don't know, is there any, merit to that at all?
It would be different, wouldn't it? Because everyone would be angrier. Everyone's anger levels would be in a completely different place. Like, both teams would be furious. Inter would be furious because they think they just scored and had it taken away from them. Verona would be furious because they'd be still saying, how could you let them stick the ball in the net when we did this? So it would be different. I don't know if I can say whether or not it would be a goal or not, because in the end, it wasn't a penalty save, was it? Henry just missed the target. So would being more angry have made him more likely to hit the target? I don't know if I can go there.
Do you know what I mean? That added relief, though. You've gone from 3-1 down to suddenly a chance to go 2-2, really. I don't know. It feels like a big swing.
Does it take away the pressure, though? That's the question. Because isn't it just a question of pressure that he feels right now that he's got the penalty to make it 2-2, to get a point for his team, and he's feeling all this pressure, and you could see on his face he looks like he's ghosted himself, like he's become white as he's standing over it, and then you're thinking, I knew straight away that he's going to miss it. And I'm just wondering, isn't it the same amount of pressure if he's come back to still make it 2-2, even if they've gone up 3-1, and then they have a chance to now
possibly, maybe even more pressure.
Possibly so.
And I do wonder whether his friends and family ghosted him after the match and just went quiet on the text. It was gone from.
But he did get a lot of abuse.
To say,
He got a lot of abuse, and I think this is the horrible thing that we see in football now. It's just ridiculous abuse.
And he came back from a long-term injury recently as well, which is, it's a shame really, because it's been a great story.
I mean, he scored the goal. In all honesty, he gave Verona a chance to get out of this. To get to get a draw effectively. So I think he deserves like the recognition that he, tried at least. And not everyone scores penalties. My God, I mean, Osimhen's missed them, so it's not. And he's the best striker in Serie A, although now Lautaro Martinez won't be giving him a run for his money. But I think the better question, but did you see DeMarco? And his celebrations as well? That was but then he came out and said, if you know me, you know that I didn't do that and I'm sorry. And then there was this whole thing. But putting that all aside, do we see chinks in Inter's armour? Or is this just a case of, this is where the question is they're so dependent on Lautaro Martinez because he's so good. Is enough coming from the rest of the team? Are we getting goals from the midfield? Because there's been a lot of talk about that. Are we getting enough goals from everyone else? Marcus Thuram seems to be a different player when he's not with Lautaro Martinez. Arnautovic and Alexis Sanchez, regardless of what Arturo Vidal has to say about Sanchez, are not exactly two wonderful players to have. And I thought Gazzetta made a really good point when, if you look down at Bergamo, and they've got 5 different players to choose from going forward, and Inter have these 2 guys and pretty much nothing else, is this going to be a problem going forward?
I can't stop thinking about, when you speak about celebrations, the fact, by the way, that Fratese's celebration up on the stand, and I read that Inter photoshopped the picture they posted.
They did.
Because they didn't want people to see as much of his bum. Sorry, that just was a side track.
Just in case you wondered whether Italy suffers from Catholic guilt, yes, they did Photoshop the thing. It's like having a crucifix in every classroom in school.
I don't want my kid to see Fratese's bum.
Fair enough, yeah.
So, when I was thinking about that did flow from the thought of you talking about goals, Mina. It wasn't just, I'm not just completely obsessed with Fratese's bum. Fratese and the fact that he scored a goal off the bench again, which, he's such a fascinating sort of case this season, because I feel like Fratese's stock is going up. I feel like initially, generally, because of how he's done for the national team, people are thinking more of him, but he's still only started 1 game all season for them. And it feels a bit like, what does he have to do to get the opportunities? Then you look at that midfield and you go, well, who are you pulling out of it? Mkhitaryan, Barella.
Mkhitaryan, that's who you're pulling out.
Yeah, well, that would be my answer.
Absolutely.
But guys, come on. Çalhanoğlu looks exhausted. The guy is like a shadow of the player that started in the season. He was brilliant. And then now, in the last 4 or 5 matches, he needs to rest. He needs 3 days off.
It's a different role, though, isn't it? If you take him out, you have to play Aslani, basically. Or Davy Klaassen, maybe.
So play them. But this is the question. You have the squad depth, and you're not using it at this point when the guy is already gassed at the stage.
I wonder whether Inzaghi's not using it because he doesn't trust them.
This podcast is brought to you by AT&T Fiber with All-Fi. Something tells me that the guy watching sports for 13 hours straight on Sunday, who then stays up watching the recaps of those 13 hours, then calls his friends to talk about it, is definitely going to notice that half-a-second delay.
Get AT&T Fiber with All-Fi and watch sports any time of day from anywhere in your house. Live like a gigillionaire. Limited availability in select areas. Go to att.com/hypergig to check eligibility. Coverage may require extenders at additional charge.
Sergeant and Mr. Smith, you're gonna love this house.
Bunk beds in a closet?
There's no field manual for finding the right home. But when you do, USAA Homeowners Insurance can help protect it the right way. Restrictions apply.
Knock, knock, real estate pros. You could save up to 30% when you file your taxes with Block Advisors instead of a typical accountant. Block Advisors by H&R Block provides affordable tax expertise that finds every credit and deduction you deserve. 100% accuracy guaranteed. Visit blockadvisors.com/real estate today to get started. Average savings based on national average fees for Federal Form 1040, plus Schedule C and 1 state filing in the latest available 2020 survey conducted by the National Society of Accountants. Pricing may vary. See blockadvisors.com/guarantees for full details.
But then this is the point. There's no point having a great bench when you're not going to play any of your players, and there is no squad depth to be utilizing at this point. Your squad depth can't be used to introduce players on the 80th minute because you've already won the game. Your squad players are supposed to be what carry you over the season and how you rotate properly and efficiently and to get them to the level up. This is where we have an issue, I think, with Inter, because they need to use that squad depth properly. I don't know if they will, but at the end of the day, Fratesi is a great midfielder, and Aslani, everyone talks about as being a great midfielder in the future, but he's not being given chances at this point to show that. I mean, Traore's come on for Milan and he scored 2 goals in his last 2 games, and he's a kid, but that's what it means to use your bench, you know?
But and this is my worry. Me, the stakes are lower for me.
Are they lower?
They're not in the title race, to be honest. They're 9 points back. Chaka Traore played in the cup where most teams rotate, and then he came off the bench when they're already 2-0 up and scored the third.
Patrick, it's Verona. It's Verona. You should be able. Come on, they're not playing Barcelona at this point, and Asllani played against Barcelona.
They scored an added time, and he missed a crucial goal that would have sent Inter through with a few matches to spare.
Fine, he was up against Araujo. He's not up against Araujo.
But this, again, you said it's only against Verona. The pressure got to Inter, I think, didn't they? They needed that late goal. Even then, they could have conceded with that penalty. But I think coming back to it, absolutely right. There's a very different team. It's been said a lot about Roma. They're a much better side with Dybala in it than without. I think the same is true of Inter with Lautaro Martinez, because they're not getting many goals. If you take out Çalhanoğlu's penalties, which are the bulk of the goals beyond Lautaro's goals, then you don't have much at all. Mkhitaryan scored twice in the derby. I don't think he's scored since. Fratesi doesn't get on very much. Barella took until the game in Naples to get his first goal. So there's not actually, whilst Inter do play this attractive football and they are very easy on the eye, there is a concern that if you keep Lautaro quiet or if he's unavailable, then they're not the same force. But I do feel that we are duty bound to keep this pod moving, and I think this title race is not only about Inter. There's also Juventus.
Just a question. Just one thing. Is it also the absence of Federico De Marco is also a problem going forward? Because he is somebody who initiates a lot of movement going forward, and it facilitates the attacking movement in general. And with him absent, as well as Lautaro Martinez, and him not being really available, that's also caused a problem, no?
Well, there's a question. There's an open question on that one, which is how immediately will Tejan Buchanan contribute, having joined the club? Canadian football. I've had a lot of interest in him because he's the first Canadian to play in Serie A, so it's an interesting story. And the honest answer is from his time at Bruges, it was an up and down, wasn't it? It started very well, and then last season less so. So I don't know how ready he's going to be to contribute, but I do think that's, when we talk about depth, an interesting piece of the puzzle going into this next part of the season for Inter.
Okay, are we going to gloss over the fact that, are we going to discuss the refereeing decisions, or are we going to just ignore that?
Absolutely. I think, let's talk Bastoni.
What do you go?
It's a foul. It's an easy one for me.
Alessandro Bastoni, is it a foul? Isn't it a foul? I think we're all in agreement.
Yeah, don't elbow people. It's a foul.
So everyone agrees it's a foul?
Yeah, Bastoni then goes on to hit the bar, which directly contributes to the way the goal is scored when Barella knocks it back in. So I don't really understand all the controversy surrounding this. I think it should be open and shut. And even then, Verona, despite the fact that goal should have been disallowed, still had the chance to equalise. So I think some of it is on Verona for Henry missing the penalty. And I think Inter supporters can have no complaints if that goal were disallowed. It wasn't. And sometimes you just need to accept it and say, we got lucky, we got away with one, and these things will come around, no?
Perfectly said.
Juventus, Mina, your favourite topic of conversation. The kids are all right again. This time it was Samuel Iling, brackets junior. I mean, we can debate as to whether the junior is necessary. I've never really understood that. Unless his father is called Samuel Iling, which I'm not sure he is. I don't think it's a double-barrelled surname, but that's my sort of niche bone of contention that I probably should have not really divulged on the pod. Anyway, let's move on. Samuel Iling, that was a very odd little.
I feel like this is coming from a place, Patrick. we want to understand where this is coming from.
I don't understand. To me, your junior, if there's a famous senior, it was Frank Lampard Jr. initially because his dad had the same name, was still coaching. Then his dad became irrelevant because he just fell out of the graces of his brother-in-law, Harry Redknapp. And Frank Lampard became the prominent Frank Lampard, and he just became Frank Lampard. He was no longer Frank Lampard Jr. In America, they have Davis Love II, Davis Love III. Why is it Samuel Iling Jr.? And why is it spelled Junior?
Let me just look up his father's name.
J-R. Yeah, please do. Can we get to the bottom of this?
I was struggling with this because it's hyphenated often, which makes me think it's just his name. Like he might have had parents whose surname were Iling-Junior and they got married. I don't know the answer to that though, so now I'm feeling very ignorant.
Well, I debated that with someone who works at Juventus, and they claim that that is not the case. And I also had a very long conversation with James Horncastle about this, and he seemed to share my thoughts on it. So we haven't, someone needs to phone up Juventus press office and say, could you give us the birth certificate of Samuel Iling-Junior? Is it, how junior is Samuel? Anyway, he scored the winning goal, but there was a bit of drama before all that. Giulio Maggiore. No, he scored the equalising goal, I should say. Dusan Vlahovic scored the winning goal. But that was character, wasn't it, shown by Juventus to come back. They'd gone from looking like they might be able to be winter champions, or at least be level with Inter if Thomas Henry had scored that penalty that he then fluffed. And there's a big psychological shift between, okay, now Inter are only 3 points ahead, we can go level with them by winning in Salerno, to, Inter have actually had a late penalty missed against them. We're 5 points behind and we have to play second and win to go back to within 2 points. So do we feel we know anything more about Juventus's title credentials after this?
I think you asked me, actually, I wasn't sure if you're going to come in, Mina, because you look like you're reading something.
I'm trying to check his father's name.
While you do that, Nikki.
Yes.
I don't know if we learned anything new. I sort of think it was a really important win, a really impressive win. I think it was, I'm loving the energy of both Inter and Juventus in different ways at the moment, just because we talked about it last week. Napoli winning the league was incredible. It was an amazing story. It felt like a once in a career type story to witness. But this feels like a race, whereas that didn't. And it's thrilling, like it's exciting. And seeing how Inter celebrated amidst the chaos and the difficult decisions was one energy. And then you got this game and you had the same sort of moment. You had players really sort of losing it a bit in a good way. And I enjoyed that. I think that Juventus sort of a fascinating discrepancy between the Coppa Italia, where they went 1-0 behind Salernitana and then just walloped them, and then this game where it felt for a long time like they weren't going to be able to. And as you've already said, the kids coming to the rescue, Samuel Iling-Junior with that, or just Samuel Iling, whichever you prefer.
Very good.
Coming to sort of the rescue with the first goal, and then I suppose the man who needs to stand up on these occasions and who is, I mean, can we still call him a kid? He's only 23 years old, Dusan Vlahovic, but who they need to stand up on these occasions, getting that last one, and then, again, like I say, the sort of all team celebration, taking the shirt off, even though you're going to get booked for it because you just can't control it. I don't know. It feels like they've got Fino alla fine back. That's what it feels like with Juventus. It feels like they've got back their catchphrase and they mean it.
I'm so glad you said that, because it's become a real occupational hazard for us on commentary, because they keep doing this. And Cambiaso scored a last-minute winner against Verona. Gatti scored a last-minute winner against Monza. And now Vlahovic against Salernitana. There's only so many times that you can say filo a fine, or you can come up with the English equivalent. They keep going right until the death. And so it's getting almost tired. You need to come up with new ways of saying that they're basically showing that Juventus spirit. And the Rain Man pedant in me feels obliged to say I think Vlahovic has now turned 24, because I think he's born in late January 2000.
So basically he's nearing retirement age.
Late January. So yeah, no, you're right. He will turn 24 later this month. I'm getting ahead of myself. I thought we're the 9th of February. So there we go. So yes, 23 going on. I am 23 going on 24, scoring winning goals. Mina, Juventus.
So are we saying, because when Caviglia got his, start, I said that he's nearing retirement more than he is the youngster that's coming in. Vlahovic is something that Allegri keeps talking about. He's like, he's just a kid, so give him a chance. And I love him for protecting him, to be honest with you. But we should be expecting more at this age. We should be expecting more for the price. In general, I think that this doesn't answer that many questions, because it's going to take us a while before we really judge where and how Vlahovic is improving. I have tons of question marks about him, because it was dreadful first half from everyone, let's be honest. They didn't have a shot on target till the 70th minute or so.
On Saturday, January 13th, it's the kickoff to Super Wild Card Weekend. And for the first time ever, an NFL playoff game will stream exclusively on Peacock. Unbelievable! It all starts at 4:30 Eastern with a showdown on NBC and Peacock. And then, witness history with the NFL Wild Card exclusive only on Peacock.
The season comes down to this.
Coverage begins at 7:30 Eastern. Go to peacocktv.com/NFL to learn more.
How would you like to come home to a bartender who will fix you any cocktail you want? I'll have an old-fashioned.
I'll have a margarita.
Now you can with the Bartesian Home Cocktail Maker. Bartesian is a sleek machine the size of a coffee maker that makes premium cocktails at the touch of a button. Choose from over 50 different cocktails, from classics to the most exotic premium cocktails served in the best bars today. You'll always get freshly mixed, perfectly balanced cocktails with the Bartesian Cocktail Maker. And now, get free shipping with your new Bartesian when you go to bartesian.com/cocktail. Entertaining? The Bartesian is ideal for parties. No need to stock all kinds of individual mixers for complicated recipes. Every guest gets the cocktail of their choice in seconds. The Bartesian makes a wonderful gift for weddings, holidays, birthdays, or for anyone who loves a fine premium cocktail. And right now, get free shipping with your Bartesian purchase at bartesian.com/cocktail. Go to bartesian.com/cocktail and your home cocktail maker ships for free. That's bartesian.com/cocktail.
Tired of ads crashing your comedy podcast party? Good news. Ad-free listening on Amazon Music is included with your Prime membership. Just head to amazon.com/ad-free comedy to catch up on the latest episodes without the ads. Enjoy thousands of Acast shows ad-free for Prime subscribers. Some shows may have ads.
I mean, at the end of the day, this was a team that didn't have Chiesa, Locatelli or Cambiaso in the starting lineup. I do appreciate that the one thing that I think is great about these old-time coaches, whether it's Mourinho or whether it's Allegri, is that you might have a lot of question marks over their tactics, but their team will always do something and will always play the full 90 minutes with a deep desire to get back in there. Because I believe like Roma have gotten 18 goals in the last 15 minutes of games. And when you look at Juventus right now, they are a side that will always know how to score goals at the very end. Interestingly, Pavoletti under Ranieri, maybe it's these old coaches who know how to inspire the team to score until the very end or to finish the matches brilliantly. But I do think that if you see after every match, they go down the tunnel, and then they are greeted by the kitmen, by all the staff, and they're given high fives, they are hugged, everyone's screaming Forza Juve. There's a real love connection, a real like desire to bring everyone together, and then they'll celebrate the guy who scores the goal. And it's always Danilo who looks very professional and doesn't, he's head down and not celebrating like the rest of them. But I think that having these sort of little things available, which is having that whole, it builds a team, right? It builds that desire to continue bonding, to continue wanting to fight for one another, to continue like fighting till the very end. And it's different people. I mean, it's been Rabiot who's come up in the last minute to be really, to win. It's been Cambiaso, it's Vlahovic today. My main issue with Juventus is their desire to continue starting Kostic. I mean, what is that about, guys? What is that about? Why? Why do we have to see this guy every day? He's a Frankfurt player. Send him back to Eintracht Frankfurt.
He's a Frankfurt player.
Brutal. There was a nice little moment between the old Frankfurt players, him and Ndika last week, when Kostic had that. He's finally going to get his first goal, and Ndika headed it off the line. It's like, come on, give me a break. What more does he have to do? The guy gambled and headed it off the line. Nikki, what more does Vlahovic have to do? I mean, it depends on what our expectations are for Vlahovic. Are they based on his potential that we saw at Fiorentina? Are they based on the price tag? Are we expecting him to emulate Cristiano Ronaldo at Juventus, which, let's be honest, is unrealistic? But surely the fact that he is scoring a winning goal when Juventus must win is progress. No, it's positive. I mean, you can say what you like about his overall performance, but surely that's what he's in the side to do first and foremost.
Yeah, it's sort of this impossible situation Juventus set up for themselves, because they spent 70 million euros on him, and I think it was probably too much. I think at this point you look at what he's achieved and you think, well, is that what you were expecting when you spent that? No, you probably wanted more. On the other hand, he started 12 games this season, scored 7 goals. I mean, that's not awful. There's lots of strikers who would look at that and go, that's not a terrible return. It's not Lautaro Martinez return. It's not what you might want for your 70 million euros. But he's kind of doing what he needs to. I think he's sort of above the threshold of what I think is bare minimum on a team of a team that doesn't play particularly attacking football, he's sticking the ball in the net enough. And I think that's sort of the situation Juventus have. Have they got the elite world-class striker they hoped they were getting? I don't think so. Is he going to become that striker? I'm skeptical because I think he lacks some technical things in his game that perhaps you look for. Can he be good enough for a team that wins Serie A? Yes. Do I think he's capable of doing it in Europe? Well, we're not seeing this season, but I think he's capable of scoring at this sort of rate in Europe. And so I think he's got the potential to be a useful player at a time when it's really hard to buy strikers without spending more than 100 million euros now. To buy a good striker who you know is going to do it for you, then.
Okay, Nikki, actually, this is an interesting question just because here's the thing. How do we judge a great striker? Is it by the amount of goals that they stick in or by what they do in the final third? Because this is I don't really like the amount of abuse that sometimes Jesus gets at Arsenal. I mean, he's a player who really contributes in the final third. He's not a player that necessarily scores with the level of consistency that you would want for your striker, And so Karim Benzema wasn't a guy that scored a bunch of goals. He was my favorite striker. I'd rather have him over Lewandowski any day of the week. Even at their top and their prime when Lewandowski was brilliant, I'd still rather have Benzema. And this is my issue with Vlahovic, is that it's not that he's not just a consistent number 9, because that's what he does. He doesn't do enough in the final third that I think that brings everyone in either.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from, because I was thinking, in some ways what I think fits with Vlahovic at Juventus is it's an Allegri team. They want to be muscular. They want to be sort of physical and dominate teams that way. And he looks the part. He has got that physicality to him. He can dominate defenders. But then the sort of comparison that popped into my mind is, I suppose what maybe your ideal is that he develops into a Mario Mandzukic, but he's not as technically good. He just isn't. He hasn't got that same finesse in his game. He's never going to score.
He's more cumbersome than Mandzukic as well, isn't he?
So he's a £20 million striker. So he's a £20 million striker.
What year are you shopping?
Have to pay
I think
more.
you're shopping for strikers in 2002 if you say he's a £20 million striker.
The age when you got him,
you're right.
he was
That's too much. That's too much.
What inflated the
But you're telling me he's not technically good. You're telling me he doesn't score consistently.
No, but he does score quite consistently. 7 goals in 12 starts is not bad. It's really not.
For a number 9 who doesn't offer that much, then you should be showing me for 80 million.
How many
I'm saying
chances do
where would you
Juventus
price
create?
the guy?
Right.
Again, it's the chicken or the egg. Is he not scoring because he doesn't offer enough in the final third, or is he not scoring enough because Juventus don't create enough opportunities for him to put in the back of the net?
Well, here's the thing. We've had 13 different strikers. 13
There's one
different...
player in Serie A who's scored double figures. One. Literally, it's Lautaro. That's it. No one else is in double figures this season. So
can we sort of expand the net wider to include the right winger for Sassuolo, Domenico Berardi, the best player in Serie A for the last decade? Can we sort of...
Well, he's scored 9. So
I know, but can we just broaden the net slightly? There's how many players?
But here's the thing: there isn't even an
goals?
individual. But then that's another thing about sort of players like Candreva or Berardi is that they can create something out of nothing and just score a ridiculously great goal. I mean, even Bonaventura can just score in a moment of magic, and that's something that I'm trying to say this without using the rude word. When something hits the fan, you need somebody to just do or create a moment of magic, and I think that this is what I expect from an £80 million forward.
But he's playing with his back to goal.
I appreciate that. I think it's the wrong. I think it's the wrong team for him. It's a little bit like I do think he will succeed somewhere else. I really do. I just think with the way that Allegri plays, maybe it is that. Maybe it is the fact that he just can't do what it is that Juventus need him to do. Which again is my issue. Is that if you are a good number 9, you fit in everywhere. Giroud is somebody who's been consistently criticized throughout his career, and yet he has gone to every team and managed seamlessly to play beautiful and wonderfully and consistently and effectively. This is what happens when you're a good player. You just seamlessly move into the team and can produce. And I think that what we need to say about Vlahovic is that he might be brilliant for a better team, a team that creates a lot of opportunities. But you have to be brilliant to be able to fit into every team. And he's not that.
I have one separate, completely different thought on this match I just wanted to ask. So Salernitana obviously are managed by Pippo Inzaghi, brother of Simone Inzaghi. Do you reckon there was a phone call at full time from Simone? You got to the 90th minute here that you were going to stop our title rivals from taking 3 points, and then you blew it.
He did look absolutely raging when he trudged off Pippo Inzaghi. I think it was more with the officials, to be honest. But because I think there was Salernitana had complaints, didn't they, in the build-up to Maggiore's red card, that there had been a foul prior to that or something. But yeah, it's a weird dynamic, that, isn't it?
How old is Pippo?
Pippo's the older brother, I think, isn't he?
Yes,
yeah, he is, but by 2 years, no? I mean, how old would he be? Like 50?
50. Yeah, 50.
So does he look the same age as J-Lo? Or he looks like he's like... I feel like he's
what a bar you're setting for people. What a bar.
I mean, J-Lo can't be the benchmark for 50-year-olds, surely.
Yeah.
I mean, J-Lo looks like a 30-year-old. I mean, that's just...
But I do feel like Pippo has aged really quickly in the last 2 years. I don't know how to explain, because I haven't seen any of him last season, right?
Jobless.
Yeah.
But you look at Simone Inzaghi and he looks like a young man. Like, I mean, he doesn't look...
Winning trophies.
Like he's just a couple of years younger than Pippo. And I feel like Pippo's gone through it. And I felt a bit like, oh, that's... I feel like he needs a good night's rest. And I don't think... being the coach of Salernitana is a great thing for him.
Head to SerieAchronicles.com/Patreon now and subscribe to the Chronicles Tifosi Patreon membership with a free 7-day trial. Get early access to every full-length episode and voice note before the rest of the world. Plus, all episodes are 100% ad-free. And you get bonus Patreon-only exclusive episodes, video episodes, and behind-the-scenes extras. Also, be sure to join the new chat community in the Patreon app and chat with fellow subscribers.
Podcast Network.
It is Ryan here, and I have a question for you. What do you do when you win? Like, are you a fist pumper, a woohooer, a hand clapper, a high fiver? I kind of like the high five, but if you want to hone in on those winning moves, check out Chumba Casino. At ChumbaCasino.com, choose from hundreds of social casino-style games for your chance to redeem serious cash prizes. There are new game releases weekly, plus free daily bonuses, so don't wait. Start having the most fun ever at ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.